There. There you go, Scott.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Casa Conejo Municipal Advisory Council meeting for Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. I'm going to call this meeting to order.
Okay, I'll do the roll call. Ed Villa.
Here.
Wendy Zimmerman.
Here.
Richard Gaz.
Here.
Cecily Rock is absent, is excused, and Scott Horn.
Present.
Thank you.
Welcome. After our call to order, we're going to do the flag salute. Would everybody join me?
Hold on one second.
Oh, she's getting her flag together. I love this
I am.
technology. It's good.
There we go.
Everyone stand and join me here. We got and begin. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to
to the flag
the States
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
indivisible,
one nation,
liberty, and
under God,
justice for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing the Patriot angle in there, Denise. We really do appreciate that.
That's really cool.
We have the approval of the minutes for tonight's meeting, July 21st, 2021. Are there any adjustments to our meeting order or agenda? Committee members?
I have an adjustment to the minutes, but nothing on the agenda.
Very good.
Well, we're doing the minutes now, so.
Well, hang on. Approval of the minutes for the meeting,
Yes.
July 21. So let's go ahead and see what you got, Wendy.
In the minutes in item number 11, it says at the intersection of Jean and Gerald, there is no street named Jean that intersects Gerald. I believe it should be Jenny.
Okay.
About the cars,
Jenny-
the guy who had
Jenny.
too many cars.
Jenny
Jean,
doesn't
no,
get your,
that's true.
Jenny doesn't.
I think that's accurate. Jean Court does go to Gerald Drive. That's where that gal was talking. I went
That's it.
down to that spot to check it out. Ed,
Where
you
is
live
it?
just down there from that. Isn't that Gerald and Jean?
I
Isn't
just
that her
looked at
street?
the map and there was no Jean. Not intersecting Jenny or not intersecting Gerald.
You
Yeah,
have Jenny, you
Yes,
have
Jenny,
Janine,
Ben,
Jean in the minute, I mean, on the
The minutes say
video.
Jean, but I have a feeling it's Jenny. But I
no,
could
it's
be,
not. No, it's not. It's definitely Jean Court, and it does intersect Gerald. It must not be on the map that you were looking at, because I physically walked down there, and this is 2 blocks down from Ed. Isn't it Jean Court that?
yeah, that's
Is that
Jeannie
Gerald?
Court, yeah, that's it,
Okay.
Jenne.
I-
Jenne.
I can, Jenne. Okay,
Maybe,
so I'll
okay, there you
change
go. I think we may have a spelling issue. That's probably what we got going here.
Jenne. Okay,
Jeanne,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe.
J-E-A, I'm
N-E,
sorry.
I believe that's how it's spelled.
I
So
live and I
more
don't
like
even know how to
Jeannie.
spell it.
okay. I'll correct the spelling of
Okay.
Jean.
But I went
Check.
looking for Jean and I don't see a Jean anywhere on this Google map that I'm looking at and.
Yeah, it's right next to Ben Court.
Oh, okay, I'll correct the spelling on that. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. That was my only change that I know of.
Okay, I did not see any changes that need to be gone over. I'll entertain a motion for accepting the minutes from July 21st.
I make a motion.
Accept the minutes.
Okay.
Richard's
So
first.
Richard, and
I'll
who
second.
seconded? Oh, Wendy, you made the motion, Richard second?
There
Yes,
you go, something like that.
Okay, I'll do the roll call. Ed Villa,
Pardon?
roll call for the approval of the minutes with the
Oh.
change.
I agree.
Wendy Zimmerman,
Yes,
Richard Gaz,
yes,
Scott Horn.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion is carried, and the minutes for the July 21st meeting are approved as corrected. And we move on to the agenda review for this particular meeting. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I don't have any adjustments. Thank you.
Then we'll-
I would say that we accept the agenda as is written today.
There we go.
Okay.
Agenda approved. We'll move on to the item number 5, public safety report. Now, this is kind of like a thing where the first person at the taco stand gets to talk first. Dean Cook.
Oh, yeah, and we lost Lieutenant Key again. So We'll start with you. Let me unmute you.
Introduce yourself and join us, please, Dean.
My name is Dean Cook. I'm a captain of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. I currently serve as the Assistant Chief of Police for the city of Thousand Oaks. I'm also filling our administrative captain spot out here at the station as well. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 30 years. It's kind of a neat thing to come back to Thousand Oaks recently. This is where I started my patrol experience, and this is where I hope to end my patrol experience. So kind of cool. For things that are happening in Newbury Park, we're still having a lot of catalytic converter thefts that happen out there. They're happening usually late at night. We have had some success in catching people, but some of the things that have gotten in our way of catching people that are doing these things is that people will hear it and they won't call it in. They won't call it in until the following morning. I would encourage that if you have a message board to put out on that, or some kind of an email that goes out in that capacity, that if they hear something that sounds like cutting metal, by all means, please give us a call, because most of the ones that we are catching are more out of luck than they are coming out of calls for service. So the Thousand Oaks has also got an etch and catch program where local businesses, and you can get a hold of Dylan Alvarez, I can have him send that out to you, will basically spray paint the catalytic converter with a seal that shows the Thousand Oaks or the Sheriff's Department. And the hope on that is it won't necessarily keep them from stealing the catalytic converter. Hopefully if they see it, they realize that it won't have the same value as one without it, and they'll leave it. But typically it's a free service that's available to the people in Thousand Oaks, and I would believe that it has been beneficial, if nothing else, than to cut off the revenue source, because I can imagine that people would be buying these when they're marked and can be qualified as stolen property. So those are the big things that we have going throughout Thousand Oaks area right now.
Thank you, Captain.
Yeah.
We do bring the catalytic converter question up almost every single MAC meeting we get to. So do we know what kind of participation, how many of those you've actually branded, and how?
No, I have no idea how many we've actually branded. I know that we have a number of them that are number of places that are participating in marking them for us. And again, it's a free service that these automotive companies or businesses are doing. I have no idea. I wish I had a better number for you on that.
Well, I'd be interested to know that. I know that's not one of the big things, but it'd be good to know what kind of volume we're doing on this particular thing. And I also like the idea of call when you hear it. I think what we'll do is I'll probably work a next door post with that exact thought. Just because that particular topic comes up a lot too. And as I say, it's in our meeting as well. And, I personally know someone who heard something happening, got out and was able to scare somebody off. And it was actually, we had this discussion. And I said, I think they're trying to steal your catalytic converter. And they were actually clueless what was going on. So it's definitely a prevalent problem. So I appreciate that particular idea, and I'll follow through with it.
There is also, put it out on Nextdoor. Dylan Alvarez has our Nextdoor, runs our Nextdoor out of the station here. He'll be able to give you a rundown as to what numbers look like for that. I know that the city of Moore Park, they're the ones that initiated this program. When they initiated it, they were doing about 100 in that city a week. They're down to about 100 a month now. So this thing kind of ebbs and flows. When it gains attention, obviously more people participate in it. As it gets further back in our mind, that participation declines. I know that Moore Park has also had several of their businesses that have started putting in the device that covers the catalytic converter to prevent it from being stolen. I don't know what the cost on that is. That obviously wouldn't be a free service, but so far I don't think any of those cars have had any of their catalytic converters stolen that have had that device put in there. And it basically makes it harder for them to get to a point where they can cut.
Perfect.
Very good.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for the captain?
Nope.
We really appreciate the input and your involvement, and we welcome you back. If you're going to be visiting us again, we'll say hello and welcome back. And yes, welcome back to the Thousand Oaks area for this. And I love hearing from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lieutenant
and-
Key is here. He's
Well then, good afternoon, Jeremy. Are you ready to bring up the other side of public safety for us, please?
I sure am. Good evening to everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It's not user error. I can guarantee that it's not me. Yeah, you know, we don't have a whole lot to report. Speaking of technical difficulties, our program for tracking all of our traffic collisions right now we're having issues with it. So our search engine for it to find collisions in specific areas was unavailable, but the AI review officer doesn't recall any significant collisions that have happened in the general area of Newberry Park. There was a couple of traffic related issues on the last meeting. Kinsey Flame actually brought up an issue at Michael Drive and Borchard. And once she gave me the issue at that intersection, I determined that it was actually a city. So I contacted Commander Jeff Miller, who was able to take that information and run with it. And he said he was going to address it was a crosswalk issue there at that location. So there was as at the beginning of it, when I was in and out of the Zoom, I did hear something about Gene and Gerald, which it was just a misspelling, but that does exist. And we were actually notified of the issue in that area with all the vehicles that were parked in that general area. And we worked with the owner of the residence, and he was receptive. And I believe that all the vehicles for the most part have been cleared, or at least there's been improvement. Is that true?
Yes, I've walked the neighborhood recently, and there are much fewer cars with covers on them all over the adjacent streets. He does still have them on his property, not on his property anymore, but he has it in front of his property, and on the side, he's got a corner lot. I believe he's on Gerald and Gene, and he's definitely reduced the number of vehicles in the thing. You know, thank you for nudging him along on that little thing there. And I suspect that Jen and Stephen Rice are their neighbors across the street. They're going to probably be appreciating that a little bit too. So, you know, like the squeaky wheel gets oiled, it sounds like, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, he was really easy to work with. We went over and paid him a visit and just had a good old fashioned communication, talked to him about the issue. And he immediately took measures to correct it. And I think he even put some of the vehicles in his backyard. And we just asked that he clear the sidewalk to allow people to walk through. And again, it sounds like it was resolved. He actually sent us pictures of his progress, and we were happy with what was going on. On another side note, what I've been bringing up at most of the MAC meetings is the increase of highway shootings. I just wanted to leave with some safety advice to the MAC. Overall, the Highway Patrol has been experiencing an increase of highway shootings throughout California, mainly in the metropolitan areas. And usually it's a road rage incident where people are upset with each other. And, you know, it may not seem like a whole lot, but the other person will pull out a gun, and then all of a sudden it's elevated that much higher, and you know, shots are taken, and the danger is obviously increasing, and we've actually had a few deaths associated with these type of incidents. I just urge you to share with your family and friends that, you know, when these incidents happen and you get upset with other drivers, the best thing to do if it's an unsafe act is just to report it to the highway patrol. We'll get in behind them and pull them over and try to figure out what's going on. Whenever matters are taken in your own hands, that's when things are gonna go sideways and there's potential for that to happen. So just some advice I wanted to share with all of you what's been currently happening in the state. So,
Right.
but other than that, I don't have anything else unless anybody has any additional traffic matters they would like to share with me to address.
And I do. One of the comments from neighbors in this area, and I've actually seen it now on Nextdoor, was the concern about speeding on Jenny, using it as a drag strip. Have you heard any reports about this?
I have not. That hasn't been brought to our attention that I'm aware of.
Okay, well,
We're
this is
starting to
one-
get a few traffic complaints. So if it did happen, I apologize for not remembering, but I don't recall that specific complaint.
Okay, well then that, maybe it's not as big of a thing, because I personally haven't heard anything, and I'm, close to Jenny in general, but not where it meets Old Conejo, where I think that is what they're talking about. So, okay, I'll look more into that and see. And if you would check and see if you heard any complaints about drag racing on Jenny or speed racing,
Yeah.
speeding on Jenny.
Oh,
And if we ever have specific timeframes that this occurs, that's even better. If you could share that with us, we'll make sure to get it to the appropriate shift and make sure that it's addressed. So yeah, no, that's no problem at all.
Okay, okay.
We do have also Commander Heather Hoagland, who is going to be doing commercial vehicle enforcement on. See, I've asked you to unmute.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, I'm Lieutenant Heather Hoagland. I just recently took over the Conejo Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Facility. It's that little area right before the grade down into Camarillo. So don't blink, but most of you have probably seen it there. But I just wanted to introduce myself and let all of you know that it is commercial. It is actually Trucker Appreciation Week, September 12th through September 18th. And I think we need to remember that we live in this wonderful country and our economy is fueled by the truckers. That when we go to the store, things are on the shelf because of the truckers. So if you see a trucker, if you have a trucker in your family, please let them know this week that how much you appreciate them and the good work that they do.
Roger
Okay.
that.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Thank you and welcome.
Yes,
Thank you.
and in fact, let me extend a welcome to every one of my neighbors who's here. And if I didn't say hello to you when you first entered the room, I'm saying hi now. Hi, neighbors. How y'all doing? Good to see you. And thanks for being part of our neighborhood council. All right. Are there any more elements of public safety reports that we'd like to have before we go on to other issues?
I don't see any questions from the community, but if you do have a question, you can either, choose a little, raise your hand
That's right. Anyone's while the
or flag me down.
while public safety is here, you're welcome to ask them questions that are related to our little Casa Conejo neighborhood. So I say thank you, Captain, everybody, Lieutenant, all you guys for coming and joining us. We really do appreciate that. This is like we absorb this like a sponge, all the information you give us, and we appreciate you coming and joining us each and every 2-month period here.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the invite.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we have now item number 6, comments of Ventura County Supervisor Linda Parks. Linda, thank you for joining us. You're up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you all here. The Sheriff's Department is, since we have them on board here, I just wanted to compliment them. I know we sent a contingency to Northern California to help with enforcement during the fires up there. And I was talking to the sheriff, and they actually, not only are they out there, protecting people's homes and all that, they just happened to stop a carjacking subject, so kudos to them. And We also have our firefighters obviously out there too, but even our animal services are there helping with domestic animals and helping the community out there. And that all just goes to show that we are all, in it together. They come and help us in our emergencies. So it's so appropriate that we would be out there helping them while we can too. So happy to see that happen. In your community, we have a project that our Board of Supervisors approved last week, and this is an item that is improving part of the South Branch of the Arroyo Conejo that you know about. And this is over there just east of Wendy Drive at Newberry, at Michael Drive. And I know that, I think you have a brochure there, Vinny.
Yes, thank you for throwing that up there.
Yes.
And this brochure, it will be mailed out by our Watershed Protection District to the area, in the vicinity of the project, so they know about the project and what the noise will be and all. As you recall, at our last meeting, we were finding that some of those areas have, definitely need to have more capacity. So good to see that improvement going forward. Also, you received information about the county's redistricting process, and you have an opportunity to provide input. I think Casa Conejo really doesn't have too much concern. There are other areas in my district that I have actually just, that have been put into my district, like originally, for example, Santa Rosa Valley used to be in the Simi Valley district. It's now in my district, which is Supervisor District 2. Somas came into my district, the area along Cal State University Channel Islands. And the reason why my district grows is because we have the slowest growth. And other areas like Camarillo, which is now one of the fastest growing districts. And before that, the Oxnard area had the fastest growing district. Normally, we would have to take from them to keep it evenly balanced in population between the 5 districts of the 5 supervisors. Just saying all that because you are surrounded by the city of Thousand Oaks, the best we can do, I think, is just keeping the city of Thousand Oaks whole with you guys in it. And so you have the same supervisor. It'd be strange to have a different supervisor, I think, but that has happened in the past. I remember Kathy Long had Wildwood and maybe Casa Conejo. Yes, she had Casa Conejo at one time, while Supervisor Shillo and all had the rest of Thousand Oaks. So, but I don't think we have any concerns with that because District 2 needs to grow, not shrink. So I don't think anything will happen to your community in the scheme of redistricting. And as far as the city of Thousand Oaks being split, that's something that could happen at the state level, not at the county so much. So that's something that our offices have written a letter to the state, just encouraging them not to split up the city of Thousand Oaks. So we all have the same legislators, for example. So with that, you have an opportunity. This is the county redistricting process. So you can, I know some of you are real wonks and like to follow what local government is doing. So you have an opportunity to participate and give your input. And we can also let you know, obviously, the results when they occur. But as you see, there are, I guess it's not up there, but there are several dates in which you can participate. And we did provide you information. So the next one coming up is September 21st. We will have a pre-draft map public hearing. It all has to go pretty fast. And then we have 3 other hearings on that, October 19th, November 9th, November 16th. I guarantee you, if anything happens that will affect you, we will let you know so you can participate. And I think that's one of the nice things about being a MAC. But you can get more information on this by going to redistricting@ventura.org. Or you can email.
That's the email. Yeah.
That's the email if you have any comments. Redistricting@ventura.org. And for information, you can go to ventura.org/redistricting.
I'm going to put that in the chat for everyone.
That's a great idea. And I'm about to go to another item, but would you like to talk about redistricting, Wendy?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would.
Okay,
I attended one of the redistricting Zooms on Monday. And what rather concerned me was that, I understand that Oxnard kind of wants its own thing and the population, but what seems to be the case is that the communities that run from Hueneme and Oxnard all the way up out through Fillmore and Santa Paula, which have largely Latino populations, want to divorce Camarillo. That's the easiest way to describe it. And the most logical place that they would probably try to put Camarillo would be into District 2. However, TO already has 130,000 people, plus however many we have in your other surrounding districts, and Camarillo has 70,000 people, which would make District 2 too big in terms of population. One of the things I proposed was that maybe it's time to consider having 7 districts instead of 5 so that we could balance out the populations, and that, some of the stuff that's contiguous can happen and, service the Latino community better because of their language and a number of other factors, and that the other places you would put Camarillo, most likely it would be District 2. It would be a little weird to throw it into the Simi Valley District, but that may also put Simi over the reasonable limits as well. So I think there is a concern that we will get Camarillo and then have too many people for one supervisor. And Camarillo is over the hill geographically from the Conejo Valley. It makes sense to keep the Conejo Valley together, beyond TO. Certainly I expect, we will be kept within the TO boundaries and TO will be kept together, but there is quite a bit of, and there were a large number of speakers trying to say that they wanted their districts, they wanted to get rid of Camarillo because they're not in sync with Camarillo. So I think we do have concerns about not having, having too many people per one supervisor while other people don't necessarily have enough.
yeah, so there are those criteria. One is to, keep the like districts together, that you have common borders with other districts. But there's also one that where possible, you really want to have boundaries that don't discriminate, on against political parties, and you certainly want to not break up communities of color and all that. But I think right now I'm not too concerned about that. But thank you for advising us on that, because then you would have one supervisor. So for both those cities, that would be that would be a lot.
And Camarillo is not next door to us, like Westlake Village, for example, is not in Ventura County, but it's next door to TO. It's a different matter being over the grade, depending on whether you call it the Conejo grade or the Camarillo grade, based upon which side you live on.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually called the Camarillo grade somewhere else.
Yeah, I call it the Conejo grade. Okay.
I agree.
So the last item I wanted to mention, and thanks for that, Wendy, is just COVID-19. We always want to keep you updated on that, and we still have a requirement to wear masks in indoor public places. And for your zip code 91320, 82% have already received their first dose, at least their first dose, and that's just great to see. We're seeing that pretty much across the state of California. About 80% of the population have already gotten at least one of the 2 doses. And in your zip codes, 75% are fully vaccinated. That's a little higher than the average. So I think the average right now for first dose is 78%, and you are at 82. And it's about 70% fully vaccinated, and you're at 75. So you're doing better than the rest of Ventura County, and I'm glad to hear that, because we want to make sure you're all safe, and also seeing that we're not spreading this. So good work on behalf of your community. And you can get more information at VenturaCountyRecovers.org. And that concludes my comments. I am available for questions, more questions if you'd like. Otherwise, I will be around.
opening the floor to questions for Supervisor Parks. Anyone got any questions before? Wendy, go ahead, Wendy.
I wanted to congratulate Supervisor Parks on evading the recall election. I think most of us
Yeah.
are happy that we continue
What
to
a
have
silly thing that would have been.
is, very interested in what happens here and being available and communicative. So that was good news. And I also wanted to say, I believe that there's some congrats on a bike lane on Santa Rosa project that got through that I'm happy about because that's being, as a cyclist, not so much because it's our neighborhood, but it's good for cycling.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Me too, Wendy.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions for the supervisor? I did want to follow up on something from last time we were going over the numbers of vaccinated people, and I asked about our first responders, what their numbers were like. And since that time, we've seen where the LA Fire Department and the LAPD have somehow turned out to be a little bit less than as fully vaxxed as we may have thought. Do we know any numbers on our county firefighters, our CHP and our sheriff people, what their numbers are like?
Well, what we have are some requirements that on, for example, our jails, that people have to be vaccinated in the jail. So that is something that we are looking forward to increase the percentage because we need to do more. That's basically it. I mean, I know it's well over a majority, but we want to get those numbers up higher.
Okay.
Same thing, in our hospitals are the employees that we have, because we have 2 county hospitals, and that's another one where you need a vaccines or proof of through testing that you're not that you don't have it. So we are following the state guidelines.
Okay. And do you, the way things are trending now, do you anticipate us being able to do an in-person meeting in our next meeting, which would November? I mean, yes, I'm making you do the crystal ball. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the way I look at the numbers, because there's so many variables, I just look at how many are in the hospital. And, as long as, in my perspective, as long as you still have over 100 people in the hospital, we still have an issue. So we're looking for those numbers to decrease.
I too look at those numbers every single day when that email comes through. You look at ICUs, you look at hospitalizations, you look at new cases, you look at deaths. And in my basic looking at it now, it seems like it's been pretty, it has plateaued for about the last week or two. It seems like we haven't either gone up or down.
I agree. It looks like it has kind of flattened, and that's good because you would expect that we could have potentially had a spike with Labor Day weekend, and apparently, we didn't have a big spike. So that's good. And but you're right, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm hoping, because the same thing with the Board of Supervisors, we'd love to be able to have in-person meetings again. So we're definitely going to have our next meeting in September in our board, on Zoom, and then we'll look to November to see where we are then. We also have an issue that we're looking at closely, and that is that the reason we can have this meeting to begin with is because the state, under emergency orders, have allowed for government agencies to meet through Zoom, where normally we cannot do that, have our meetings through Zoom. It has opened up, a good platform for the public, I think, to participate who may not otherwise. So we might try to get some kind of hybrid thing going, even once we do get back into in-person meetings.
Well, I look forward to managing 2 things simultaneously, then a Zoom meeting and an in-person meeting. I think that'll be kind of fun. Venice is giving me the look like, oh no, but yeah, okay, yes, that's definitely one of those options, and I think that more opportunities for our neighbors to participate is good.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
other quick question. Is there any word about the potential of a booster that's going to be given out? hear it on the news all the time that if you're 12 and older, you should get a booster shot. Is that going to be handled by the county also?
Well, right now, it's the state of California, it's if you have if you're immunocompromised, they
Right.
are saying you should get a booster and you don't need to have a doctor's recommendation. You can just go in and get one. And so that's where it is now. But right now, I think they're saying the jury's out as to whether boosters should be required or, be offered or not to those who aren't immunocompromised. I know that if you go to the UK, I know it's a little farther than Hawaii, but you get a booster there too.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If there's no more questions or inquiries of our supervisor, we thank you for being part of our team, and we'll move on then. Council comments on items not on the agenda. Does anyone have any comments that are not on the agenda? Wendy, join us.
I do. This is kind of long-range planning, but at some point next year, when it becomes appropriate, after all the candidates have thrown in their hats in the ring, I would like either as part of a MAC or as a separate thing for there to be a Casa Conejo candidates night. So it's a future agenda item, and I know it's a long ways off, but in some ways it may not be as far off as it might seem. I don't want to lose the thought that since we will be getting a new supervisor, I think the people who want to be our new supervisor should come visit us and care enough about us to make a point of doing so.
That's an excellent idea. We can automatically put that on as a future agenda item. And while it may not be triggered for a while, it'll definitely be one of those things that'll be triggered when the time comes. Outstanding thought. I definitely want to hear from the candidates when the time comes right. And perhaps we can, sponsor some sort of an event that gets them all out there, type of a thing. Or if it requires us to have them one at a time, whatever. I like it. Great idea.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Richard, join us.
Yes, I want to comment on the subdivision, one commercial lot into 6. This is on,
That's on the agenda, Richard?
That's
So you
coming.
can
no, it's not on the agenda, but I'd like to make a comment on it.
It is on the agenda, and it's agenda item 9A.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, if this is the property that's at Wendy and Old Conejo, that is on our agenda. We are going to talk about that. Is that the property you're asking about?
Yes, I can hold.
Okay.
Because we are going to because I think we all have a little bit to say about that.
Wow.
Council comments on not on the agenda. Continuing on, I was wanting to bring up the fact that Newbury Park High School will be having homecoming this Friday, and that we should expect there will be fireworks to announce the homecoming king and queen, perhaps announce famous alumni or halftime fireworks. So they have posted on Nextdoor and what have you. They have expect that Friday night, the 17th, from about somewhere between 6 and 9. We should expect that.
Roger that.
So with that in mind, I want to give a little bit of update on the opportunity we've created for a student honorary member for the MAC. While it's not on the agenda item, I did want to give you a little feedback. I had hoped that by now we would have had someone come forward. We do not. I've talked twice to the principal, Steve LePere, and he has posted in the normal places, and I, in my second conversation, suggested a couple a little bit further off the branch thing. I asked for the booster clubs and things like this. So we haven't gotten a response yet. I wonder, did we get a person for the other MACs? You mentioned Oak Park. Did Oak Park have somebody ever come forward for their MAC, Venice?
Yes, they have. They picked it's someone in their ASB.
Okay, well, that was my next thing. I was going to suggest that I might go and talk to the ASB and just
Yeah.
visit them and, you know, do that. So I thought I'd telegraph that. That's maybe my next step, since we didn't get someone. I've got the name of the faculty representative who's the student government advisor, and I've got a time frame. The first thing in the morning, they're at 7 in the morning. So I'll work that out. But I'm still optimistic that we're going to have an honorary student member at some point.
Okay,
Thanks for pursuing that, Scott.
thank you, Scott.
Um,
So any other council comments?
Any other council comments before we move on to the public comments here? Public
I do.
item number 8.
I do have a public comment from Sean Maradian has his hand raised, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Thank you, Denise. Good
You're
evening,
welcome.
MAC members, Sean Maradian. Just wanted to point out this evening that this MAC meeting was noticed for one of the highest, if not the highest, day of the Jewish holiday. Several of my family members and other members of the Jewish community would have liked to attend this meeting. I myself had to remove myself from Yom Kippur services to be here. In the future, I think it would be really respectful to our Jewish community that if you folks would not notice a meeting on the highest holy day of the year. Thank you.
Duly
You're
noted, Sean.
Thank you,
for that.
Sean. I appreciate that. I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
Duly noted. Thank you for that. Public comments. I see 2 people in our gallery.
I don't have any other hands raised.
Okay, so very good. Then we can last chance for public comments on items not on the agenda. Thank you, everybody. I guess we can move on to information items. This is item number 9A, and we're now going to be talking about the City of Thousand Oaks subdivision proposal at Wendy Drive and Old Conejo Road. If you're like me, you've already noticed the big sign at the corner near the urgent care center announcing what's going on there. And I've, just by reading it, it seems to indicate that the owner would like to subdivide the parcel that is one parcel into 6 parcels. That appears to be all it's telling us right now. Venice, do we have a reporter or Supervisor Parks? Do we have an explanation of what's going on here?
This is the notice that was sent out. It was mailed August 26th to locations within 500 feet of the project site. I spoke to the planner. Her name is Jessica Magana. And she said that this is a subdivision proposal into 6 lots, that the lots would remain commercial. And that the Planning Commission will be hearing this on October 11th. And there will be a tentative tract map available about 2 weeks prior to that meeting. It'll be online on the Planning Commission's website. That they're currently in administrative review of an application for a drive-through restaurant and a daycare. But that has not been approved yet. They're still working through parking issues. It's not, I didn't get any further information on that. So there was not a lot of information that I had other than this notice is what she sent to me. So I would say this is just an information item at this point, that you guys can, as we learn more from the city, because again, this is in the city, not in the county. So, but it was just here just so that you're aware. And I'm sure, and as you are, because you saw the signs. So, and the people who lived within the 500 feet radius did receive this notification.
Okay, Richard, you were the one asking about this. Go ahead and lead us off.
Yes, I'd like to add to her information.
Okay.
Yeah, the big information, which I really liked, was it's all going to be 1 story. The daycare is going to go next to on the end where O'Reilly's is, O'Reilly's Auto Parts. And the daycare is going to be a separate building, so we'll have to wait and see what they come up, and that'll be to adjacent to the urgent care, which is the other end of the shopping center. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, it is an interesting situation. It seems so innocuous, the idea of just subdividing the existing parcel into 6 separate parcels that obviously can be resold off and done differently. And obviously, I'm just sort of asking, spitballing questions out about the idea whether or not the city of Thousand Oaks, when they did the update for the general plan and they bulldozed, they added height to a lot of things like this. Did they change the designation of height on this particular piece of property? Do we know anything about that? Does anyone, I mean, obviously it's a city question, but that was one of those things that when we were focusing our energy on the Borchard wetlands, the other areas around us were getting upscaled as well. And I'm just saying, if there must be more of a reason why they want to subdivide this parcel. So that seems to be the real question. Why do they need, if it's already existing as a commercial property, why do they need to subdivide it? And what is the goal of that? So those are questions that we're gonna have to ask at the planning commission meeting. I like that we are on top of this early, and everyone's looking at this and saying what's going on. This is the way, community activism works. So, other questions, other comments on this piece?
I think a lot of it's going to matter on what the plans are for that property. It is already a difficult section to drive through past that shopping center because people use that right-hand lane, which merges into the left-hand lane. They use that as a passing lane. People turn into the shopping center. The street there is on Wendy Drive is quite narrow. The old Conejo Road, you have to go a long ways down towards the O'Reilly to be able to make a left turn into that shopping center from old Conejo. So the potential traffic impacts, if they sell it off in 6 parcels and those new parcel owners create businesses that generate a lot of traffic, we're going to have problems. That Wendy Drive already backs up from the freeway at certain times such that you can't get out onto Wendy from Bella, which is my route on. So, I would like to know from city and the developer what the plans actually are, because 6 different owners could choose businesses that, are very high traffic and, create serious messes for us on Wendy Drive. It's hard to know. I think in some ways that shopping center is a little under, doesn't have quite enough in there. I can understand that. But it's also, needs to be balanced with neighborhood traffic.
Definitely, Wendy. I think we're asking that same sort of question. And it seems like we're leaning towards the same thing, is that 6 different owners can lie 6 times as much pressure on the city to get what they want, for their little improvements. So there's something going on here. There's an end game that is probably known to these developers, but we don't know exactly what it is, why it's 6 commercial lots and what's the plan down the line. So we're going to try and find that out. I guess that's our mission right now when these planning commission meetings come up. So Venice, yes, when that planning person you spoke with gives more information about when their meetings are and when it is, be sure to forward that to all the, the MAC stuff.
Her contact information is right here, and I did ask her if people should contact her directly, and she said yes. So if you did have any questions, that is her contact information.
Well, then there we've got it there, Jessica
Magana, yes.
Magana. So anyone in the community, if you're interested about this, there's some information for you there. Okay.
Oh,
Very good. So we'll keep our eye on that particular property and see how things go from there. Item number 9B, report of the ad hoc committee on the Borchard property subcommittee. Richard and I basically have been looking at the past history. We're trying to start with the oldest information we can about the property and working our way forward for it. So we really don't have much to go on right now and to give you, but we are open to information, and we're in the process of trying to determine exactly how much that particular orchard wetlands has been flooding. And I'd like to introduce a document from Glenn Shepherd. Glenn was the speaker at last meeting from the Watershed Protection District. And in our July 21st meeting, he made a presentation and we asked some questions. One of the questions I asked was, well, how often does the Borchard wetlands flood? And he didn't have an answer, but said he would get back to me. This is the chart that he's created here. And I think it's important for us to take a look at this and know that the South Branch of the Arroyo Conejo Hydrology Summary talks about the cubic feet per second. This number, the CFS, that number right there, which is next to the date that says CSF, the peak, that number, that abbreviation is for cubic feet per second. That's how much water was flowing into the Borchard wetlands during each of these 9 inundations, we'll call them. And you can see that there's, and we can all remember the times like in 2000 and 2014. I remember in 2005, it was President's Day when that big storm happened. So this hydrology report essentially talks about how much water they've had. And one of the key questions and one of the key numbers they have is the flow, this cubic feet per second. They have a peak number of 2,430 cubic feet per second as their benchmark. So all of the floods of the Borchard wetlands that happened since 1971 that they've documented for us, all had higher flood flows than the not higher flood flows. They had stream flow peaks above their point of flooding. So, and I'm not doing a good job explaining it, but I do want to point out the most important aspect is Glenn wrote to me, he said that Watershed Protection believes that the area has been inundated about 9 times in the last 40 years. Thus, the flowage easement the county has is being utilized when the water from the inundation is on the property. So clearly, the flood control, the Watershed Protection District has had to use their easement on numerous occasions. These are the ones that are the biggest floods, but we all know that nearly every rainy season, that thing overflows a little bit. So the county has been using its easement as needed, and it will continue to need that as these storms come through. So it was an interesting little bit of information, and I've been looking to collect photographs from each of these events. So I'm throwing out the idea. Anyone who has pictures from these years and these floods, contact me because I'm looking for pictures and information. Questions, anybody about that?
You might want to go to the TO main library and go through some of their archives. They may have that information for you.
Very good. Very good. I was thinking of visiting the permanent collection that includes Ed Lawrence's photographs. You know, and he may have some stuff like that. And then I got to find out if the Ventura Star inherited all of the News Chronicle stuff. You know, that could pass. I hadn't even thought about that until a little while back, but that was a possibility. So anyway, we're looking at the history at this point in time.
Interesting.
Once the MAC is finished commenting, I have a public comment.
Oh, okay.
So,
So are there any questions for the ad hoc committee on the Borchard wetlands?
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
Scott, one thing that I have not heard about anything is about that Ventura County flood control right away in there. is that an issue, or is that something that they're gonna sidestep so they can build on those wetlands? I understand that Supervisor Parks mentioned that they have to abandon the right of way before they can do any building there.
I'm not sure about that. That's a good question. I don't know the vernacular, the term, if right away is another phrase for the easement or not. So I'll refer that to the supervisor's office to get what
Okay.
exactly right of way means. I don't have an answer for you.
Roger that. Okay, great, thanks. Perfect.
Do we have
I do. I have a public comment from Mr. Maradian. So Sean, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello, hi there again. I appreciate the opportunity, Chair Horn, committee members. I thought it would have been appropriate if Mr. Shepherd was on this call to be able to present the data without having it be reinterpreted by the chair. I respectfully, on the record, want to dispute everything you just said and the qualifications that you have to interpret that data. If Venice would be kind enough to put that chart back up, I want to point a couple of things out to you that I think would be really important for everybody to recognize. The easement in question, and you've heard this repeatedly, is in place to take care of flood events that exceed or at 100-year storm frequency. If you look at the chart in front of you, from 1980 to 2017, the column says frequency, 15-year, 20-year, 10-year, 40-year, so on and so forth. None of them have came even close to a 100-year storm event. So in that respect, the easement is not to be used until there is a 100-year storm event, which has never taken place. Equally, if the property was inundated where this document states overflows the banks, that means the homes to the south of the channel would have equally been flooded, which have never been during all of these frequencies. So again, with all due respect to the chair, if there should be a clear understanding of what this data means, the only individual that's qualified is Mr. Shepherd, especially since the chair pointed out the peak flows. Those are also on top, it says stream flow. Those flows were not flows that were redirected onto our site. So to set the record straight, the easement has never been used. It's never overflowed the banks, and it's never gone onto our property because according to this data, we've never had a 100-year storm. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think it'll be appropriate for.
Thank you, Sean, for your input on the subject matter. We'll take it under advisement and we'll move on.
Move on.
The graffiti report intervention team update, please.
As of right now, since I've been back, I have not seen any graffiti on any of the overpasses. There's some over, maybe kind of like that on Jenny Drive that I'm going to attend to this week. Other than that, it's clear.
Ed,
Send me a picture, Ed, and I'll get it over to the sheriff's department. Roger that.
Thank
I'll take care of it.
And Ed, is it in a known quantity, a known tagging scene, or is this something new?
This is kind of, they were using a Sharpie pen writing little stuff, you know, but I don't see any kind of gang resemblance or anything like that that was there before. So other than that, I'll take care of that and send a picture to Benice.
Okay.
We're clear.
And I've got to say that having walked the neighborhood and been around, I just don't see it, you know, like I used to. And the work between law enforcement, public safety, and your team has really done a good job. You know, with as much of our, you know, infrastructure and issues in other parts of the county and also in LA in general, it really is nice to have a community that is so close to the action, but so nicely comfortable for its residents.
Roger that.
Okay, information items were passed. We're going to move on to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence, Venice?
No, sir.
Okay. Future agenda items? Do we have any future agenda items?
Are there
Candidates, right?
Candidates forum or candidates
Candidate
forum
forum
or
is great.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Wendy.
And we're also talking about when we eventually have our first in-person meeting after a long time. I'd kind of like to see if we can turn it into, you know, a bigger event of some sort. And I don't know what I'm thinking about, just spitballing here, but the idea of having it, you know, a dun-dun-dun-dun type of a thing where we get a lot of people involved coming out to a meeting as well as online. So I don't know what that means as far as publicity, but you know, I just like the idea of when we do get back to real people is, you know, letting that bit of information become a story in itself or something.
What if we have an open house?
That's a good, now, can you have an open house as a thing? Would you have to have an agenda item sort of set up in order to make all of the members here? Would it be like a separate meeting for an open house? Or would it be like during an actual meeting that we have an open house?
Well, our meetings are open, so I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
If you serve some refreshments, you might get a better turnout.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You bring some
You're talking
some
about.
snacks in, make it up.
Usually We get better turnouts when we have hot button issues in the neighborhood, like Wendy Drive was a hot button issue. So we had, what, 60 people at that meeting?
That's right.
It just really depends on what's happening. By November, we may know what's happening at the shopping center after the planning commission hearing, and that may stir up some neighborhood interest. That meeting happens to come up in between our scheduled meetings, so it's kind of hard to know. But usually our attendance swells when there's something happening in the neighborhood that's people are, you know, concerned and chatting about, or sometimes we have a guest speaker that brings up an interesting topic for us. If you guys have some guest speaker ideas, some of mine have been carried out, and I've appreciated the extra information we've received.
Very good. Yes, indeed.
Well, the next meeting is November 17th, so the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay. So are we, everyone's double checking their calendar? Is that what we're talking about right now? Let's see.
Oh, well, that's on the approved calendar,
Yes,
so.
it is. Yes, it is. Okay. So we're gonna, without any other additional comments or questions or concerns, we're gonna move to the 13th item. I'm just double checking if anyone's not anything more they've got to add to our Casa Conejo MAC.
I don't know. I see a hand raised in the corner.
You do?
I do.
Where?
Becca Whitnell.
No, that's actually muting her microphone is what I think that is.
No, I see a white hand.
Becca Whitnell, if you've got a question for us. go
I
ahead.
didn't see a hand. I don't see a yellow. Usually it's a yellow hand, but I'm happy to.
This one is showing up. This
Yes.
side. I just want to make sure we don't miss anybody before
Very
we
good.
close out.
Becca, I've asked you to unmute if you have.
Hi, everybody. No, I didn't raise my hand.
Okay.
Thanks, though.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much for joining us. We also thank Jay Spurgeon, neighbor Jay, former county city director of public works. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Okay. All right.
So if not, I'm going to call for an adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion's been
Okay.
made and seconded.
All right. Ed Via,
I agree. Yes.
Wendy
adjourn.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Richard Gaz,
Yes.
Scott Horn.
Yes, meeting,
Yeah.
we'll adjourn our meeting and reconvene on Wednesday, November 17th, tentatively 6 p.m. And we're holding out hopes that it might be in person. We'll just see. If not, I'll see you then in Zoom.